Today, we're going to dive into the most complex, most powerful network on the entire planet. And guess what? It's running inside you right now. Yep, we're talking about the human nervous system, your body's incredible command center. So to get started, I've got a question for you. Just take a guess. How fast does a signal, a thought, a feeling, the sensation of touch, how fast does that actually travel through your body? What do you think the speed limit is? Get this. 270 miles per hour. That is literally faster than a Formula One car at top speed. It's absolutely wild. And this incredible velocity is all thanks to your nervous system, which is basically your body's very own high-speed internet. Okay, so how in the world does this amazing network actually work? Well, it all starts with a pretty simple blueprint. The whole thing is split into two major parts, and once you get these two, everything else clicks into place. First up, you've got the central nervous system, or CNS for short. This is the main hub, the big boss. We're talking about the brain and the spinal cord. Think of it as the central processing plant. Then you have the peripheral nervous system, or PNS. These are all the network cables that branch out, connecting that main hub to every single part of your body. Now, let's zoom in just a little on the CNS. It's really made of two superstars. First, you have the brain. That's your ultimate control center, making all the big decisions. And second, the spinal cord, which is like the information superhighway, carrying all those messages from the brain out to the body and from the body right back to the brain. Okay, so we've seen the big picture. Now let's zoom way in. I mean, all the way down to the microscopic level and meet the single most important part of this entire network. It's time to meet the messenger, the neuron.
So what is a neuron? Well, it's the basic nerve cell, but unlike pretty much any other cell in your body, it has one very specific, very cool job: to transmit tiny electrical impulses. It's basically a living biological wire. And they're not working alone. They've got a whole support crew called glial cells, which are kind of like the roadies for the rockstar neurons, making sure they have everything they need to do their job.
And this shows you exactly how it works. A message comes in through these little branches called dendrites, which act like tiny antennas. The cell body then processes that signal and decides if it's important enough to pass along. If it is, zap! It fires an electrical pulse all the way down this long cable called the axon, to the very end, where it has to make a tiny leap across a gap called a synapse. And this is where the real magic happens. That electrical signal can't just jump across the gap on its own. So instead, it triggers the release of these little chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. I'm sure you've heard of some of them, like dopamine or serotonin. They literally float across that tiny gap to deliver the message to the next cell. It's an incredible process, turning an electrical signal into a chemical one and then right back into an electrical one. And this happens billions of times a second. All right, let's zoom back out. We've met the tiny messenger, the neuron. But how does all this microscopic zapping and jumping actually translate into the things we do every day? Well, this brings us to our body's control panel and the huge difference between voluntary and involuntary actions. Remember those network cables, the peripheral nervous system? Well, it has two main jobs. The somatic system handles everything you do on purpose. Like deciding to wave your hand or get up and walk. But the autonomic system, that's the true autopilot. It handles everything you don't even have to think about, like your heart beating or your lunch digesting. But here's the really cool part. This autopilot system isn't just on or off. It has two totally different modes, or gears, that it can shift between depending on what's going on. On one side, you have the sympathetic system. This is your fight or flight response. It's what kicks in when you're stressed or maybe see some danger. It jacks up your heart rate, sharpens your focus, and gets you ready for action. But on the other side, you have the parasympathetic system. This is your rest and digest mode. It's what calms you down, slows your heart rate, and lets your body take care of background stuff, like digestion. So one revs you up and the other cools you down. So what happens when you don't have time to think? When you need to react instantly to avoid getting hurt? Well, for that, your nervous system has an incredible emergency override built right in. It's the ultimate shortcut, the reflex. The key here is pure, unadulterated speed. Imagine you touch a hot stove. In a fraction of a second, that pain signal travels to your spinal cord. And here's the brilliant part. The spinal cord doesn't waste precious time sending that message all the way up to the brain for approval. Nope. It makes an executive decision right there on the spot and immediately sends a command back to your muscles to pull your hand away. Just think about that for a second.
Your body acts to protect you before your brain, the supposed command center, even knows what's going on. I mean, that is biological efficiency at its absolute finest. It's just amazing. As we wrap things up here, I want to leave you with one final thought about the sheer scale of what we've been talking about. Look at that number, 86 billion. Any guesses what that is? That's the estimated number of neurons in your brain alone. And to put that number into perspective, which is almost impossible to do, scientists estimate that there are more nerve cells in a single human brain than there are stars in our entire Milky Way galaxy. You literally have a universe of complexity and potential right inside your head. So, you are wired for incredible things. Every single thought you have, every dream, every single action is like a symphony being played on this amazing network inside you. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it?